Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. It's so good to see each and every one of you back here today at the beginning of your week on a Monday to discuss things about your mental health. Just want to say welcome to my co host, Dr. Ricardo Whyte. Always good to see you here and to be here with you.
Same to you. Good to see you, sis.
Yes. And so we want to see where you guys are viewing from and where you're watching from. I know when I logged in about maybe uh, 15 minutes before the program started, I saw that some of you were already on there, and I saw Clint was on. Clint was not the very first one, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Clint, you were second, so very
Yeah,
good.
Clint, we can't have this continue. Agnes, I don't know.
Yeah, Agnes.
Congratulations, Agnes.
Yes, looks like Agnes got there just a little bit before Clint, and they were greeting each other. So we're good, glad, and happy to see both of you. And please, those of you that are on right now, please share on your social media the link to our program for this evening because we are doing part two to the disease to please. We're doing part two. Last week went really well with all your questions, and I just want to ask you guys. Were you thinking about it this week? Did you some of the things that we were talking about? Did you actually process some of that this week? Just put a one in the chat if the topic really was something that had you thinking about it this week. I hope so. Hope so. You could put a one in the chat if that is the case. But I want to say welcome because some of you. Do we have? All right. Thought I saw a place. Well, welcome to all of you, but please put in the chat where you're viewing from. I don't see any locations, but some of you are chatting in the chat. So welcome. So I don't know where you're viewing from, but we are just glad to have you here. Please share on your social media. Mental health is just everybody talks about mental health and the importance of mental health. And I think it's so amazing that we are able to do mental health programmings every week, not just for our church people, but for everyone. This is for the world. This is international. This is for whoever can just just log on and tune in and hear. And so this is such an important topic that the topics that we cover, mental health, it's so important. And we want you to share this with the world because this is everybody is impacted by this. But yeah, what are your thoughts about that, Dr. Whyte? And I am
Well,
trying to talk as loud as possible. Hopefully you guys are
you
hearing
s-
me
you
okay.
sound
Go ahead.
great. You sound great. There's no volume issues. Yeah, you're just hearing that mental health is at the center of the discussion nowadays, and man, what a great book. I think you guys are really going to enjoy some of the points that we bring out in this book, The Disease to Please. Maybe you might give a little refresher on what was your introduction to this book.
Yes, you know what really the introduction to this book is I was seeing so many clients. I've had so many people come in and just talk about uh this issue. They don't actually come in and talk about the issue of being a people pleaser. They talk about other issues, and through that it's discovered by them and by me that they indeed are people pleasers and the issues that is causing them in their life, the stress and unhappiness that no one really knows that they feel and are going through, but they know how it's impacting them. So that's doing research on that to try to help them is what got me to this book, The Disease to Please.
That it just shows you the power of caring, that you came upon such a powerful resource. Um, but I think you guys are gonna love some of the points that we cover in this book. We just jump into it, or what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
well, I just want to for those who are here for the first time, if there's those here for the first time and that you weren't here last week, just want you to know that this is by Dr. Harriet B. Brakier, and that she is the author of this book. And she has some really great points. And today we're not just going to be talking about the issue of being a people pleaser, but also we're going to look at some of the solutions that she brings out in the book that can help you. if you are dealing with this issue. So yeah, we're going to jump right in. We're going to jump right in, and some people, and I thought about this before the program started. I was just like doing some things, and I just came across my mind that I was like, I don't know if we were clear, because I was listening to her chapter 5. In chapter 5, she talks about, um, not if you are being abused, or you're in a situation where you're being abused, even physically and emotionally, that is not that it's not a good thing to be kind in that, and to be a people pleaser in that situation. And so we want, I just wanted to make sure that we're very clear that in that situation you need to step away and not continue to be in that situation, because that is harming you, and it can be very harming. So I just don't know if we were clear on that last week, and so I just thought I was going to make that very clear as we start.
No, that's I mean, it's critical because in there might be some other resources that will encourage you to make life about somebody else, okay? That's not this book.
No.
This book is reminding you to prioritize yourself.
Yes.
And also one of the things that we talked about last week was checking your motives. Check your motives.
Yes.
Why are you people pleasing?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things the book highlights is that part of why people are people pleasing is often the fear of rejection, the
Right.
fear of being alone. So we're talking about fear based behavior. And when things are fear based, you often aren't going to get the best outcome.
Right.
So getting at the core of why you're behaving the way that you're behaving is very, very important to getting to some of these solutions you're going to talk about, Dr. Otonte.
Yes. Well, thank you for making me a doctor, but I'm not a doctor. You're
Everybody,
Dr. White.
everybody. Yeah.
always have to always have to clarify that for people. But yes, no, and I just to like break this down like in a way where people are really getting it, meaning like if if you are, 'cause some of you may be thinking like, well, I just like to do nice things for people. Am I a people pleaser? If your motivation is coming from just a pure, if there's no fear there, if there's no distorted thoughts that are saying, oh, if I don't do this, they won't like me, or this is how I am loved by people, and this defines me. I'm not good enough just on my own. So I have to do things for people all the time for them to want to be my friend or want to be around me. If none of that is involved and there's no fear, then do a kind thing, and say yes when you can. Say tell people, yeah, I can do that for you. But if you're doing it and the emotion of fear is a part of it, you are most likely a people pleaser. And I just want to just go over some key points that she brings out. Understanding the roots of the people pleaser, understanding the roots on how someone can get to this space. Um, Recognize that people pleasing often, this is what she shares in her book, is that recognizing that people pleasing often stems from low self esteem, fear of rejection, or a desire for approval. She asks a question in the book. She says, reflect on your childhood experiences that may have contributed to your need to please others. And I love that she asked that question in the book, because sometimes we just don't just stop and pause and take some time. I mean, when we're in therapy, when we go to therapy, when people go to therapy, they do that. But a lot of time, if you're not in that type of situation, you don't take the time to just think, why do I do this? What started this type of behavior for me? How did I start thinking like this? What are my triggers? Why do I do these things? And so, even now, as this program is going, you might be thinking of how, if you feel like you're dealing with this issue, how did you get here? And I think it's very powerful to take that time. I don't know if you're
This
muted.
this
Oh,
is
there you go.
this is
Okay.
so this is so like deep rooted though, because how many times have sometimes you're walking and you encounter a person who has kids, right? And they're like, say hello to the nice man. And you see the little kids like, no. And I'm like, they don't have to say hello to me.
Yeah.
I am nobody important to them, and that is perfectly okay. But like, because I know that's what I tried to reinforce with my daughter. It's like, you feel like saying hello, go ahead and you say hello. You don't feel like saying hello, you don't have to say hello.
Right.
Like, it's when we're kids that how many times where our parents like say hello and you're like, I don't
Yeah.
even know who that is. There's
Right.
something in me that's telling me that I shouldn't, and you tell them.
Right.
And so it's almost like we were conditioned for this, to
Mhm.
neglect what our body is telling us and just do it anyway, when in fact, no, as children, sometimes we should be backed up. Like, if you don't feel like doing it, maybe you don't have to. Now, of course, you can take it to an extreme, and I'm not talking about taking it to that extreme where,
Right.
you can be rude. Nobody's talking about being rude, but it's acquainting you with who you are and understanding that
Mhm.
your no is meaningful and your desire to say no is meaningful, obviously in the context of respectfulness and obedience. Also, I get that, but this is a
Mhm.
separate discussion where we're talking about sometimes kids are raised as if they don't have the right to having feelings, they don't have a right
Right.
to, they don't have agency in terms of how they're going to interact with an adult. And
Mhm.
for those of you with young children, be intentional about providing agency, some agency, and weighing that careful, tightrope of making sure kids are respectful, but at the same time they have agency. They're entitled to how they feel.
Yes. Yes. And I think we talked about this a little bit last week. Maybe we did touch on it. Just um, in certain, well, just in general. I was going to talk about different cultures, and it looks a little bit different in different cultures, being and for this situation, but really just in general. I mean, because and it's such a fine balance of teaching your children how to be respectful and obedient and all of those things. That's what parents are trying to do. But sometimes we go so far with
To
that
the
we just
extreme.
take them out of that healthy space of just, them feeling like they can actually say how they feel, or not have to do something that they're not comfortable with, and then that just stays with them. Like, okay, well, I have to do these things to make people like me. I have to do these things to make somebody happy, even though I don't want to do it. This was a good comment that Amber made, and I think a lot of people
Can
will
resonate with it.
resonate with this.
My root was being bullied in middle school, and once I became semi-popular in high school, I was so afraid to losing all my new friends that I did everything to keep them. Man, I feel your pain, sis.
Yeah.
Like, who
Yeah.
wouldn't? Who wouldn't? So but it's a tightrope. But I guess the point that I was really getting at is, look at how early it starts. It
Yes.
starts so early where
It
sometimes we're
does, so
cultivated
early.
into this, I gotta be a nice person. I don't have agency to tell you no. Um, I don't really feel like that right now. That doesn't make you a bad person. So yeah, we're not trying to raise rude kids. Please don't hear
Right.
that. That's not what we're talking about. But we're talking about the power of agency and the power of getting in tune with how you're feeling and feeling like you have a right to it.
Mm-hmm.
Clint
Mm-hmm.
said, it's hard to find a balance for ourselves, let alone for our kids, let alone for
Mm-hmm.
our kids. I think I've tried to use my childhood experience growing up to pause, reflect, and say, well, what's the experience I want my daughter to have? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Given the experience I had, what were the things I liked? What were the things I didn't like?
Right.
And this was important. Agency was very important. I was raised in the regime of be seen and not heard, like this kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we were conditioned to people please, I would say.
Right.
And this book highlights that it's dangerous. It's dangerous. So many of us are at risk of burnout, And at the seed of burnout, we talked about this last week, at the seed of it is these noble goals. Like
Right.
Amber just said, I want everyone to love me. I want to be a boss that's loved and appreciated. And, just all this different stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not realizing that some of these noble ambitions can set us up for burnout if we really and truly don't set boundaries that protect our sanity.
Yes, and learning, I mean, learning how to set boundaries, it's so difficult for people to learn that, especially people pleasers. Because again, a boundary would be just a beautiful no.
Yeah.
That being able to exercise the beautiful no. And this is the thing. You're saying the reason why the no is beautiful is because you're not saying it in a rude way. Like you want to make sure that whoever's asking you to do what they would like for you to do, but you don't want to do, you're saying it with a kind, respectful tone and all of those things. No can be hurtful when the way we say it is rude and hurtful. And so people pleasers definitely stay far away from the no because they're just like, that's mean. And no is only bad when you say it in a mean way.
Right. And at the core of a beautiful no is, oh, let me take the time to understand you and what you're asking. Let me really make sure that I'm giving this every chance I can. And then after I've taken the time to really understand it, then I can meaningfully now declare why it's not in your best interest that I do this, and it certainly is not in my best interest that I do this. But
Right.
you might even be able to get consensus, and the person's like, yeah, you're right. I probably have a better option. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's the beauty of the no. One of the
Yes.
things she talks about is saying yes comes at a cost.
Yes.
Saying yes comes at a cost. Um, and there's a marketer that I enjoy quite a bit. His name is Jeff Walker, and I've heard him say, "Your yes must be defended by 1,000 no's." Your
Mm.
yes must be defended by 1,000 no's, or saying no's to set you up for the yes that you want to say yes to.
Yes. 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 That's powerful. That's powerful. Just want to remind you, guys, that you're a part of this conversation. Like, we want your questions and definitely your comments as well. So, we know you're commenting some in the chat. So, please put your questions up so that we would love to bring your questions into the discussion. Want to also some of the things that she talks about to be able to help the people pleaser is identifying your triggers. Keep a journal. She talks about keeping a journal to note situations where you feel compelled to please others, including your thoughts and feelings during these times. Like, how are you feeling? You're feeling the fear, but why? Why are you feeling afraid? So you're looking at what triggers you.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's just powerful because this is part of self-awareness. And once you get clear on your triggers, it protects you from falling subject, being hijacked by your triggers.
Right.
Deborah goes, would you say some people are people pleasing to keep the peace in their relationship? What is the danger in doing this?
It's
uh
based on fear.
yeah,
You're
Deborah.
afraid you're going to lose. But go ahead. You
So
can go
here
ahead. You
was
can take
here
it
was
back.
here was the point that was on the tip of my tongue, Deborah. So you just brought it out. Listen to this one. Avoiding conflict weakens relationships.
Yes.
Avoiding conflicts weakens relationship. And to further explain it, ironically, trying to please everyone often leads to weaker relationships because people pleasers suppress their true feelings,
Yes.
leading to passive aggressiveness or resentment. Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry I'm so late. Traffic, man. We in Southern California. You knew about the traffic, man. Stop it.
Right.
You know? Um, yeah. So now, as opposed to us dealing with the issue, Instead, we're passive aggressive, and yeah, you kind of want to deal with the things in an honest and upfront fashion. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I learned in the book, The Crucial Conversations, that it is actually an honor to have a crucial conversation with a person. Now, while I'm
Right.
saying this to you, I already know there are people that you don't feel like you can trust with, hey, this is how I feel about you. Okay, so I already know that. And you obviously have to be judicious about this. But part of how you can set up a crucial conversation is, I want to talk to you about this issue because I care about this relationship.
Right.
I want to talk to you because I care about this relationship. I'm really afraid you're going to misunderstand me. But
Mm-hmm.
the relationship is so important to me, it's worth the risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth the
Mm-hmm.
risk. So I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to take the risk of being misunderstood. No one likes to be misunderstood, and that's why a lot of times people run the other way. But again, what ends up happening is you become passive aggressive. Well,
Right.
no, I care about you. I value this relationship, so I'm going to risk it and let you know this is how I'm feeling. And I'd like to hear from you how you're feeling.
Yes, I love what you just shared. And so to even go and to go back to Deborah's question and statement again, everything you said, Dr. White, 100%. Um, it's like, it's not, I teach my couple clients and even every individuals as well that don't suppress your feelings. It's not how you're feeling and discussing it with whoever you need to talk to. It is how you do it. So we always think that a conflict or has to be done in an ugly way. I'm sorry, guys. It was too in our face on Friday. I have to say this. I'm sorry. As a therapist and just as a human, it was too in our face. I have to say this. What we saw on Friday between the two presidents and the vice president is exactly how it is not supposed to be done. That they don't agree on whatever, but the way they dealt with it, even the body language, I'm sorry guys, I watched it a lot of times, the body language, the way they spoke to each other, that's not how you deal with conflict, or if you have a difference of opinion, or just sharing something with someone on how you feel. Like they were talking over each other. You see what I'm saying? Like all of these type of things. So when you need to share and talk to somebody and you know that there's a conflict of at least you guys have a difference of opinion, or you need to share how you feel, that is an example of exactly how you do not do it. You are to be respectful. I think I've talked about on here. I like to teach people how to have discussions, these type of discussions with empathy and understanding. So that even means your body language. That means like how you're coming to the person. They're supposed to be listening to you with an empathetic heart. And then when it's their turn to talk, you're doing the same thing. It's like you don't talk over each other. So that's the type of way that if you don't want to do something, you can discuss it in that type of manner. So you're not being a people pleaser, bringing this back to people pleasing. But you're able to have that discussion with somebody in that type of healthy way, not like the example that we saw on Friday. So I had to just say that.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that you saw missing from the conversation was little questions that can be so helpful.
Right.
Like, what are you hearing me say?
Ex-
What are you hearing me say?
mm-hmm.
And starting my response to you with, here's what I'm hearing you say. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many arguments I've been able to calm down
Right.
just with, you know what? Let's pause for a second. Let's make sure we're tracking. Like,
Right.
what are you hearing me say? Like, I found that just so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah,
So
what are your thoughts?
yes, I have thoughts about that, but we have another question too. So we'll go to that. It
Sure.
says, does this happen with parents where you do everything they say to please them, but you're not given the power to say no or have an opinion? Can this be a trigger um, to please later in life? Absolutely.
Re-
Absolutely.
Read that one more time. Does this
Okay.
happen with parents where
So
you where you're
you're doing,
just
yeah,
yeah?
this
Go
person's
ahead.
saying
Go
they're
ahead.
doing everything to please their parents, but they don't, in that relationship, they don't have a right to say no. Can this bring about becoming a people pleaser and be can this be a trigger later in life?
Did you? I mean, like, did you let your kids? And that's interesting because with healthy parenting, my kid absolutely had the right to say no to certain things, you know?
Right. Right. Right.
Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to, like, it was one of those things. It's just that in addition to that, they also came were to understand, well, there are certain things that I'm not asking you about. So, for example, am I going to consult with you as to whether or not all the doors need to be locked? That's not up to you. We're
Mm-hmm.
not looking for your opinion on that matter. So there are some life and death issues where it's healthy for a child to understand the boundaries. And guess what? That's how life is. There
Yeah.
are things your company wants your input on, and there are things your company does not need your input on. And that's just the way it works. And there are
Right.
things in your life that you want your company's input on, and there are things your company does not get to have any input on.
Right.
So there is a détente, there is a give and take. But yeah, in a healthy parenting situation, there should be moments where you have the right to say no, and then there are other moments where no, this does not fall within your purview.
Right.
If
Right.
there's a burglar, that will not be your problem, that'll be my problem, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
So just want to balance that out.
Yeah, and it's okay, we have another one. Let's okay. So Cassie says, "Good evening, all. I try to please people so they wouldn't say, 'Oh, she says she's a Christian and did X, Y, and Z, and I didn't want to cause a bad reflection to others as a believer.'" So, I mean, thank you for that question because it is a good, or not even a question, but a good comment, because I do know in the Christian world, this is where a lot of the conflict comes in for a lot of Christians, because they're just like, and this question was a similar question was asked last week too. So even Jesus, we talked about, had to go rest for a while. The Bible says, he just said, come, let's rest for a while, meaning like it wasn't the principle we can get there. It wasn't, even Jesus had to go rest. Let's put it that way. So Jesus had to get poured into so he could continue to be the blessing that he was to the world. And so we, as sinful human beings, Jesus wasn't sinful, right? So, and he needed to go rest. And so we, as sinful human beings, with not able to handle the stress of the world the way Jesus was able to handle the stress of the world. And I'm meaning like how it impacts our mental health, how it impacts our mood, or all of those things. It's important to take care of yourself. It's important to do self-care and set boundaries. When you are not able to do something, you are able to say the beautiful no. And that's a completely Christian thing to do, is to say the beautiful no in a nice way, and let the person know if there's an if you're able to do what they're wanting you to do at another time and that's possible, then you'll be able to do that. But if this is something that, if you're saying yes out of fear or for the Christian, I would say, and it is still fear, but we would probably call it legalism. Does that make sense,
Well,
Dr.
I
White?
mean, obviously it makes sense. I would also add to it that, Cassie, this is the reason for why we need, as Christians, to really forge a rich, robust devotional life,
Yes.
because some of these questions are really hard. Hey, what should I do? And one of the things a rich devotional life will do is it will help you order your steps. It will attune you to what it is God would have you do in that situation. Because once you're clear on what God would have you do, now you kind of don't, it's out of your hands now. It's out of your hands. No, this is how God wants me to handle it. And one of the things that you would see is Jesus was very, very committed to a rich devotional life, and you saw the results. Like
Mhm.
the way he would sidestep those, those traps. He that is without sin, let him cast the first stone. I mean, just the perfect responses, just knowing exactly how to make the connections. And we're told it's not like he used his godliness. I suspect it came from God ordering his steps. And God, I believe, can do that for us as well.
Right.
So Cassie, that's what can help you understand moment to moment sometimes what you should do in that moment.
Yes. I want to, and this is really what we're saying, but I want to just say one of the things that she says in the book, and I just like the way it's put together, is again talking about setting boundaries. Learn to say no without feeling guilty.
Like no is a complete sentence.
Yeah. Yes, but learning to, yes, it's a complete sentence, but learning to say no without feeling guilty. I think that is where a lot of people pleasers get stuck there because they don't like that feeling for themselves either. But I think education and awareness and will help you to realize you don't have to allow yourself to feel guilty. You have a choice.
Well, the interesting there, Sister Tante, is how many times has a person asked you to do something and you avoided the little twinge? Like, so you were like, okay, I'll do it. So you would have felt a little bad, maybe for a little bit, but now that you said yes, you feel a lot of bad for the majority of the time until the commitment. And the whole time you're thinking, I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I didn't want to do this. I just didn't want to feel like a bad person. And the whole time, rather than
Mm-hmm.
just that little bad that you would have felt and you would have moved on. And every time you think about it, you're like, man, I'm so happy that I told them I wouldn't be able to do it. And now I don't have to give all of my Sundays up for this or
Right.
whatever else it is. Like there are other things I was devoted to. And
Mm-hmm.
hey, man, can I just be as clear as possible? This is not easy stuff that we're talking about. Okay,
Right.
we all have to take a look at. Am I saying yes too much, and
Yes.
am I avoiding? Am I being fearful of a person's response rather than really tuning into? Well, how do I feel about it? you
Yes.
know but Sister Tante, I believe you have some special skills and you've developed a measure of comfort with saying no now.
Now I've
That's
always, I've
always been the
always,
case.
I have always, this is, I'll be honest, guys, I have struggles. I have other struggles, but this people
This
pleaser
is
part, I don't struggle here just with this topic. I have other struggles. And I can say that my husband and I, we complement each other because he has struggled with this more. Transparency. He had, yeah, transparency. He has struggled with this more. And so in our relationship, we learned like he is actually, I probably started saying yes a little bit more because of him. And he's definitely started to say no a lot more because of me. So we always use this analogy that he's the gas and I'm the brakes because he'll just be like, okay, yeah, yes, yes, yes. He doesn't want some of these things that we're talking about. He doesn't want to disappoint. But you think of especially the role that he does as a pastor, like he's someone's always asking him for something, and if he has to say the beautiful no at times because he has to pour in for himself, he has to pour into our marriage, he has to pour into our children, so he needs to make sure. You guys see all these balloons and all of that happening. Oh, you didn't see that? That's
I
from
saw the balloons, but I
yeah, yeah,
don't know
yeah,
how you
that's
did it.
from that, yeah, that new program on a Mac. Anyways, I'm sorry. But I was saying he has to pour into himself, pour into me, and pour into our children, so that first, even before he can pour into the church and the ministry and everyone else, those are that has to happen. So when that happens, he shows up and is the best pastor and the best, you know, minister to be able to minister to the world. And so he had to learn how to balance that. And just like everybody else, none of us are perfect. None of
Now,
us are
why
perfect.
were you so good at saying no?
Um, I don't, I just,
Because you're a mean person.
no, I was just about to say, I was like, I'm not a mean person, but definitely, let me tell you, no, but I'll say this: transparency. Here it goes. Here it goes. Transparency. You know, I'm so transparent all the
Yeah,
time, Dr. White. But
yeah.
um, I, I just, I always, I was a little, I was spoiled. I was raised, I was a little spoiled. Okay. So, I mean, it's just the truth. It's just the truth. I was spoiled. And so, I just basically, when I came into ministry, it was like, I mean, that's just where God wanted me to be, to learn some of these things that he wanted to refine in me to be able to give so much to others, but at times, and then then I got so far to where I'm like, oh, well, I'm really, we were giving so much that weren't setting the boundaries for ourselves.
Can I?
And then we learned how to do that. And that made ministry a happy space. But then becoming a therapist took me even to another level of having to become even more empathetic and caring so much about people. So I think between my husband and becoming a therapist, I definitely just um I learned how to be more on the gas a little bit. And
But
not
can
always
we
on the
go back?
brakes.
You made an interesting statement. You said,
Mhm.
I was spoiled, and I'm wondering if the truth is not you experienced a love that gave you the confidence to say no. Like you didn't feel like
Okay.
you needed to please people.
We
You know,
definitely can look at it that way. Yeah. Because you're growing up and people are like, oh, you're so spoiled, blah, 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 blah. So maybe that's an excellent way to look at it. Yeah, you're right. I did feel that confidence to be able to say no. I wasn't afraid to say no. Like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. So when
that's
I
why.
met my husband, and I was like, and I would tell him, I was like, you don't have to say yes to everything. But
Hmm.
people pleasing, that wasn't even on my radar. And yeah, so
Very, very interesting. Hold on one second.
okay, all right. So yeah. So hopefully our transparency is helping you guys here. That's the reason for it. Just to let you guys know that we're not perfect either, and these things that we share with you and even with our clients are very beneficial to us as well. But I want to talk about some other things that she talks about on how to help the people pleaser, building self esteem, because she talked about, and the first thing that she talked about, how people pleasers get to where they are and the roots for people pleasing, and they recognize that their self esteem is low a lot of times. So, building self esteem, engage in self affirmation practices regularly. Remind yourself of your worth and achievements. I love working with my clients with this one, doing affirmations, and I have them do affirmations 3 times a day. And I also, for their homework, 3 times a day. So depending on what they're going through, is what their affirmations are going to be. But I have them look in the mirror because I want them to see themselves saying it. I want them to hear themselves saying it. And I tell them it's going to feel very awkward at first. It's going to feel like you're lying to yourself, and you're going to feel like, it's going to feel that way. And that's okay for it to feel that way, because then eventually it's not going to feel that way when you are intentional, and when you are just doing it every day. You're rewiring your mind, you're building new pathways in your brain to have a different thought process, because what we learned last week is people pleasing has a distorted thought process. And so we have to feed, you can't depend on other people feeding into you these positive things. You feed positivity into yourself. So you build your self esteem, needs to be built up. And so, yeah, positive affirmations. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. White?
Well, I I'm still back at the fact that you were raised with enough love to give you the confidence to say no and
Yeah.
be completely comfortable with that. And so now, when a person doesn't have that, what your exercise is teaching them is, well, now you've got to do that for yourself. Um,
Right.
And unfortunately, we don't understand the power of our words. So we think this is just a silly exercise.
Right.
No, your
No.
words cast spells, including over you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason they say spell the word.
Right.
You do have influence over your subconscious, over your well-being, and this is why the words that you say are just so powerful. And the other
Mm-hmm.
thing is paying attention to your self-talk, because what's interesting is, yeah, what's interesting is, in scripture where it says, um the out of the abundance of the heart, the subconscious
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, you speak. And so it really just kind of underscores that your words and your self-talk can be an indicator of what's going on with you subconsciously. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the reason why you then want to control it, and you want to be sure that you're pouring good things into your subconscious, because out of the abundance of what you put in there is what's going to come out of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can control that process.
Yes. Yes. I see some people in the chat saying that's hard when we start talking about affirmations. Michelle, it is hard. And at first it can be at first it can be hard. It can be, again, like you're going to feel like you're lying to yourself. It's going to feel awkward, all of those things. But just like anything else, we continue to do something on, on a daily basis. Even we continue to do that hard work, and it might hurt at first, might be difficult at first, but you're going to benefit from that. It's just like starting to work out at the gym again. It might be hard to start picking up those weights, but as you continue to do it, it gets easier. I was just thinking, just today I had a client that I was talking about this with, and doing some affirmations. um okay, all right. So yeah, so i have I had a client today that I was dealing with, and I could tell when I let me just pause. So I think Dr. White is going to have to step away right now. Okay. So, and to deal with something that's very important. And so we praying for whatever it is and hope that it'll be taken care of and everything is okay.
Thank you
But
so much.
he will be back with us next week.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye. But okay, so let's again, I was working with somebody today, and I was telling them their affirmations for them. I mean, the affirmations are catered to their situation. And I could see in this young man's face, like I was saying the positive affirmations to him, and to that, this is what I wanted him to work on throughout the week. And I could see him, he didn't say this is going to be hard. His face told me that this was going to be so hard, almost like he was afraid to say these words. And so to say these things, and that's how his brain is currently wired. But as he continues to do this every day, that he will start to unwire his brain, and his thought processes are going to start to be different. And that is the beautiful thing about pouring into yourself. So, again, it can be hard, but it's so important to build that self-esteem so that, again, you can feel confident and feel okay with saying no and not feeling guilty when you have to say the beautiful no. It's not saying no, it's saying it beautifully, and not feeling guilty about it, and knowing that, learning to know that you don't have to say yes to everybody all the time, and learning to pour into yourself. So again, we still have time for some questions, but I also want to just go over some of the things that she lists that can help. Challenging negative beliefs. Oh, I love this one. Challenging negative beliefs. Identify the challenge and identify and challenge negative beliefs about yourself that fuel people. fuel people pleasing behavior. Replace negative self talk with positive affirmations. This, I love teaching people on how to do this. So there's we just talked about the affirmations, and but to replace that negative self-talk, that negative self-talk is what is causing your low self-esteem. It's the negative self-talk. Now the negative self-talk didn't come out of nowhere. So circling back about what Dr. White was saying, um, or even what the author of this book was saying too, like going back and finding out, when did this start? When did this start in your life? And so that negative self talk started as a child. I I can tell you that most of these foundational issues that adults are dealing with, people pleasing, whatever you feel in the issue, it started at a young age. So, whatever happened in your childhood that taught you that, or you grew to believe that this whatever you're negative thinking about, that you say to yourself, whatever situation caused you to start thinking that way, so many times start in childhood. So when Amber actually brought up her statement, it was in middle school. Do you know how many times I have heard middle school in therapy? Middle school, I mean, we all have to go to middle school, right? But it is that time. Of course, we all think like high school is the time, where middle school is just a time in young people's lives where so many things are formed around that 11, 12 year, because you're not a teenager, you're not a little kid, people are being mean, or people dress this way, you don't look like that. It's so many things that happen during that time in people's lives that they start to create this negative self-talk, which causes insecurity, which can cause people pleasing. So those are just, and the thing is, the affirmations, saying the affirmations again can rewire and help you start to say positive things. That's why the affirmations are so important. The affirmations are so important because that negative self talk is just on, like, I don't know if this is a term, but autoplay. Okay. I just made that up, or maybe it's a real term. I don't know. But it's just on autoplay. It's just always going in your mind, right? You have to be intentional and mindful enough, and be aware enough to stop, to push stop, and then pour positive affirmations into your mind, because and it's been on autoplay for years. So you're trying to recreate pathways in your brain where this negative self-talk has been able to do its thing, for so many years. So you're making up ground, but when you're intentional about it, you will make up ground quickly, and you will start to believe the things that you are saying. So please tell me. I mean, I know Amber will put up the questions, or maybe I'm missing one here. Let's see. All right. What are some affirmations we can use? There's so many. So when I teach people about affirmations, I cater it to their situation. So I'll just use what I talked about with this young man today. First of all, of course, a classic one that so many people can say and use is, I have them say their name. So I will teach the client, like, say your name. So you want to say, like, if I was doing affirmations, I would say, I am Atonte and I am enough. I am Atonte and I love myself. That one right there, that one, I can feel, I see the tears. I can feel the pain in so many people's eyes, because they don't tell themselves, they don't love themselves. A lot of people don't love themselves. And so when to say that every day, 3 times a day, 3 times a day, it's hard. So that's just an example of some. But it could be, I'm a Tante and I deserve to be loved. I am a Tante and I am beautiful. Many people don't think, even pretty good looking people, you would be surprised at how many of them don't think that they're beautiful. because of their negative self-talk or whatever trauma or things that they went through in their childhood that made them not feel secure and think that they're beautiful. So that's just some examples. um I think that's a similar question. What are some examples of positive affirmations? We just went through that. Is it better to write them in a journal or post them? Absolutely. You can do that. I would say do both. You can't overly affirm yourself. We are living in a crazy world where you do not hear positive things about yourself every single day. Like you can't overdo it. You can't overdo it. You're not going to become this prideful person walking around like, oh, yeah, I'm so beautiful. I'm so that. No, you're just going to love yourself in a healthy way. And you're going to love yourself enough that you're not going to allow people to mistreat you. You're not going to allow people, you're going to, not allow yourself to stay in a bad relationship because you're not being loved or treated with respect. And so, the list can go on and on. So let's say your primary caregiver has acts of service as a love language. Okay, your primary caregiver. Okay. So every time you say no to them, it was like saying, I don't love you enough to do it. Okay. The primary caregiver has acts of service as a love language. Okay. So, okay, well, here it goes. You have to set the boundary. Like, that that's their love language, right? But even in that, you have the right to say no in a kind, respectful way and even have a conversation with them to let them know, hey, this is why I'm saying no. And I believe, you can even have a conversation about their love language need, but their love language need still does not erase you setting a boundary and being able to pour into yourself. So you're doing the self care for yourself. And then once you've done that, then you can come back to them. And if you've done that and taken care of yourself, you should have the emotional bandwidth and even physical strength to be able to come back to them and say, hey, I can do this for you. Or I can say, I don't have to say no. So hopefully that answers that question. Hopefully I understood that correctly. Um, is it correct to say if you are uncertain about, let's see, if you are uncertain about if you want to do it, then the best thing to do is say the beautiful no until you have time to think about it? Of course, or just, you're not, well, you don't have to say the beautiful no yet because you may end up doing it. But if you're uncertain, just, yeah, definitely let them know. Communication is key to every relationship. I don't care. It's not just in a marital relationship. It is key into every relationship. Honest communication done in a loving, respectful manner is key to every relationship. So if you're not sure and you're uncertain, let them know. Say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but let me take some time to think about it. And then if you're a Christian, because this is we may not have some Christians on here. We know we have a lot of them, but if you're not a Christian, you're going to say, well, let me think about it. And if you are a Christian, you're going to say, well, let me pray about it. So no, you don't have to say no. You have the right to say, let me say a beautiful, let me think about it, and I will let you know. Um, so yeah. Yeah. So those are some of um, the principles. And this is like such a big topic that I thought like, oh, we do it 2 times. But I think, especially since Dr. White had to step away, I definitely think we could do a third topic. I mean, a third program on this because it's um, definitely resonating with a lot of people. I want to say this one, I give you guys this one. It says practicing. This is another way that she says can help people pleasers is practicing assertiveness, using I statements to express your feelings and needs without blaming others. For example, I feel overwhelmed when I have too many commitments. So it is okay to let people know that you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're not able to do that. Like this, if I do this, I will feel this way and this will be bad for me because of this reason. Again, transparency. Again, I talk about this all the time, so I'm sure you guys all know. But like, I have multiple sclerosis, right? So when I have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I can't do this. Even though if somebody's asking me something to do something, I have to say no. I have to have this much rest. I need to make sure that I exercise in this way and have time to do that. And I also have to eat a certain way. So, and it might take more time to prepare that type of meal. I'm just giving an example. So I have to say, well, and I also can't have a lot of stress going on in my life. So I have to say no because not only I'll be overwhelmed and that would physically harm me to allow myself to get stressed out all of the time. So I'm just giving you an example, my own examples, my own real life examples. So hopefully this resonates and you guys understand that. So me saying the beautiful no to take care of myself is important because I want to be the healthiest version that I can for myself and for my husband and for my children, and just to be in this world as long as God wants me here to be able to be a blessing to others. But I have to say the beautiful no to be able to do that. So especially as a pastor's wife, sometimes people are like, oh, you can't do this. No, I can't. It's a beautiful no. So hopefully that helps for those of you that might be struggling in this area and find it difficult to say the beautiful no. So with that, let's see, there's one more question, and this will be the last question. Is it common for people pleaser to also have trouble accepting no from others? Kind of like, I do everything for you and you can't do this for me. Yes, most definitely. People pleasers definitely can have resentment and get mad and upset because when somebody tells them no, because there's a whole bunch of non-boundaries going on in this relationship or in situations. And so, people pleaser, I'm speaking out to out there to whoever this really fits for. People pleaser, set boundaries so that you're taking care of yourself, so that when somebody tells you no, it doesn't impact you. It doesn't affect you the same because you're taking care of yourself. Because people are going to tell you no. Everybody can't tell you yes, and you can't say yes to everybody. So it's just, you just need a healthy balance. And because definitely it will affect it can affect any relationship that you're in if you're not doing the beautiful no and they are taking advantage of your people pleaserness. That's what I was going to say. People pleasers get taken advantage of from not such great, I don't people. And I don't even say like not such great people. It's just that people just think like, oh, well, she or he always does this. So I can just, they'll do it because they always do it. Like, they learn your behavior and they take advantage of that. And that's very unfortunate, but that does happen. So um, that's what I want you guys to remember. And we're going to do a part 3 because Dr. Whyte didn't get to finish with us. And I think there's a lot more that we can just continue to take a deeper dive. It's a great book, The Disease to Please. You guys, I have the audio book. I need to get the hardcover, but I have the audio book, and I'm encouraging you to get it too if you want to read more for yourself. It's a great read. It's a great read. But definitely thank you guys for being here with us, and I want you to tune in next week. Bring a friend and share this on your social media. And just let them know that we talk about all things mental health. And we have quite a library of programming because we've been doing this almost 3 years. So you can always go back and check out our other programs that Dr. Whyte and I have done together. So, all right. Want you guys to have a good evening. And again, thank you for being here with us. Have a good evening.